Credit, no question about it. I am in favor of that. When it comes to top prospects, there are always those who present a unique challenge in evaluation, and the 2025 draft class is no exception. Shedeur Sanders has become one of the most polarizing names in this year's draft cycle, with speculation swirling around where he will land. ESPN Bet currently lists the New York Giants as the favorites to secure both Sanders and Travis Hunter, though that doesn't necessarily mean both players will end up wearing blue on Sundays. It simply reflects the growing sentiment that each of these highly touted prospects has a higher probability of joining the Giants than another team at this moment. Hunter, an elite two-way talent, currently sits at -200 to land in New York, while Sanders is at +185. However, those odds could shift as draft night approaches, particularly if the Giants consider trading back into the first round. The intrigue surrounding Sanders is magnified by the uncertainty at the top of the draft order. The Cleveland Browns, holding the number 2 overall pick, appear inclined to look elsewhere rather than selecting a quarterback. That notion has gained traction in recent days, as reports indicate that the Giants, sitting at number 3, might also opt to pass on Sanders. If Cleveland and New York both forego the talented signal caller, the question becomes, where does he land? This scenario creates a fascinating domino effect across the first round, as teams weigh the value of drafting Sanders versus addressing other pressing needs. If Sanders does begin to slide, a critical exercise emerges, identifying which teams might actually pass on him. With the Las Vegas Raiders picking at number 6, let him slip by? The consensus suggests they would. Would the New York Jets, sitting at number 7, take a chance on him? Again, unlikely. The same question arises at number 9 with the New Orleans Saints. That's where things get interesting. The Saints present a legitimate landing spot, especially considering their recent restructuring of Derek Carr's contract. Yet, if New Orleans chooses to reinforce other positions, the question of Sanders' landing spot only becomes more compelling. The deeper he falls, the more chaotic the draft board becomes. Would San Francisco at number 11 take a swing? Unlikely. Dallas at number 12? No chance. Miami at number 13? They probably should, but they likely won't. By the time Indianapolis is on the clock at number 14, the discussion shifts to the long-term viability of Anthony Richardson. If Richardson struggles to solidify his status as the Colts' franchise quarterback, could they consider a move for Sanders? Perhaps, but it remains a gamble. This situation draws eerie parallels to the Atlanta Falcons' handling of their quarterback conundrum last season. The Colts could embrace a similar strategy, allowing Daniel Jones or Richardson to serve as a short-term bridge while grooming Sanders for the future. The Arizona Cardinals, selecting at number 16, represent another wild card. How does head coach Jonathan Gannon truly feel about Kyler Murray? While Murray showed flashes of improvement last season, particularly in a system that incorporated more under-center snaps, doubts persist about whether Gannon views him as a long-term solution. If Arizona isn't completely sold on Murray, Sanders falling to number 16 could force an unexpected recalibration of their draft strategy. Meanwhile, Adam Schefter has reported that the Pittsburgh Steelers, holding the number 21 pick, are not planning to draft a quarterback in the first round, at least not under their current assumptions. However, if Sanders somehow remains available at that spot, it would be astonishing to see them pass on him. The Rams, positioned at number 26, could be an intriguing dark horse should Sanders tumble further than anticipated. As speculation intensifies, ESPN Bet has placed Sanders' draft position over-under at 8.5. The over, meaning he will be drafted 9th or later, is set at -130, while the under 8th or earlier sits at even odds. Given the sheer number of quarterback-needy teams and the scarcity of true franchise-altering signal callers, it's difficult to envision a scenario where Sanders remains available beyond the top 10. Still, draft night unpredictability looms large. Some teams, such as the Raiders and Jets, are in prime position to select a quarterback but may ultimately pass on Sanders. The Saints, a team long associated with high-caliber quarterback play, could be the logical floor for him at number 9, yet they may also decide to prioritize other roster deficiencies. However, if New Orleans is dead set on a different approach, perhaps placing its faith in a restructured Carr or another mid-round quarterback prospect, the Sanders sweepstakes could take an entirely different turn. One of the more compelling possibilities lies with the Giants. If they pass on Sanders at number 3 and instead select Hunter, widely regarded as the most electrifying two-way talent in recent memory, they could still maneuver back into the first round to take Sanders if he slides far enough. Giants general manager Joe Schoen could see an opportunity to secure both a generational defensive talent and a future franchise quarterback in one draft class, a move that would undoubtedly extend his and Brian Dable's tenure in New York. But would Giants fans embrace Sanders as their quarterback of the future? That's where the debate intensifies. While Sanders possesses all the traits of a high-level NFL quarterback, elite accuracy, strong decision-making, and poise under pressure, there's an undeniable allure to the Manning surname in New York. With Arch Manning looming as a potential top prospect in a future draft, there may be a faction of Giant supporters and decision-makers alike who prefer to keep their options open. Even if Sanders does slip down the board, his eventual landing spot could prove to be a blessing in disguise. If he falls into mid to late first round, he could end up in an optimal developmental environment rather than being thrust into a dysfunctional situation too early. Consider the possibility of Sanders landing with the Rams at number 26. Learning under Sean McVay and sitting behind Matthew Stafford for a season could be the ideal formula for long-term success. It's a scenario eerily reminiscent of what Aaron Rodgers experienced in Green Bay. For a young quarterback, the value of a stable coaching staff, a structured system, and a competitive roster cannot be overstated. In the end, the Shedeur-Sanders sweepstakes will be one of the defining storylines of the draft. The uncertainty surrounding his landing spot has created one of the most fascinating debates in recent memory. If the Giants opt for a different direction at number 3, and if quarterback-needy teams fail to capitalize on the opportunity to draft a potential franchise cornerstone, Sanders could be left waiting far longer than anticipated. But as history has shown, the quarterbacks who slide often land in the best possible situations. If Sanders does experience a draft day tumble, he may ultimately find himself in an organization better suited to maximizing his immense potential. One thing is for certain. The NFL draft always delivers surprises, and Sanders' journey is shaping up to be one of the most captivating narratives of the year.